It's yours.
What was that?
Sorry, it's recording.
Yeah, the recording.
Okay,
I didn't hear
so we
that.
have a motion by Les, seconded by Buzz, to nominating Sue Sedano to be the vice chair. Does anyone else want to make any other additional nominations? And I don't think there's any more discussion. You heard, you said you were willing and.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so all in favor? 6 in favor, so that passes 6-0. So now we'll go to the next point of view, which is basically, I would talk about, I wrote on the agenda responsibilities and expectations, and really what I'm thinking about is this is about ways of working. How is the committee gonna function over the next year? I thought as a starting point, the thing we need to do, I'm not sure if we actually have to approve them, but we certainly have to bring them up and make an opportunity for people to suggest or propose changes to our bylaws. So they were emailed to everybody with the invitation to the meeting tonight of our current bylaws. And do we have Christina on the?
We do.
If we don't make any changes, do we have to reapprove them?
I mean, you can, it just means that you are agreeing that your new bylaws are the same, so,
Okay, but we're not required to, you're saying?
no.
Okay, did anyone have any changes they would like to propose to our bylaws? Okay, that was the answer I expected, but. So, since we didn't make any changes, I don't think we need to hold a vote. I will say that over the next couple of months, if anyone wants to look at it some more and come back to the next meeting with a proposal to change the bylaws, just make sure you tell me so I put it on the agenda. We can come back to this again. But I thought as part of an organizational meeting, this is kind of a fundamental thing that would be good to take care of it and check it out.
Well, the role of the vice chair, wouldn't that be something that we could change or no can change?
We could, but I thought, well, so
Because my.
let's come back to then,
Okay,
because I kind of want to talk about that separately.
okay.
I'm not proposing to make a change to the bylaws.
Yeah.
I was planning to talk about, I think I put it down here. In fact, it's the next item, it's the office responsibilities.
Okay, isn't that, okay, so that's the role, that's nothing you'd have to change in the bylaw. That's my understanding last year.
So what I'd like to do is close now the bylaws, we don't
Okay.
propose any amendments. And the next item was to talk about the officer responsibilities, so.
Since we've discussed the bylaws and we all agree that we don't wanna make a change, why don't we have a vote to say this is what we want?
Okay.
Or that we accept them as it is,
Okay.
and then there's no discussion.
Gotcha. I have a motion by Walter to approve the current bylaws to continue to be our bylaws for the coming year. Doesn't preclude us from making changes in the future, but at this point, we're confirming that we're gonna use the same bylaws. Do I have a second to Walter's motion? Seconded by Les. Does anyone want to, I'm fine with this. Does anyone need to discuss this?
No.
No, I'll call a vote. All in favor? We have 6 in favor. It passes unanimously. Excellent. Thank you, Walter. Okay, so let me give you guys a little bit of background. Because Sue and I have had some conversations outside the meeting about, I asked her what her intention was. Did she want to be chair? Did she want to continue as vice chair? And she pointed out that this past, I don't want to, if I don't say it correctly,
No, I'll
please. What she said, what I heard her say was that she was expecting this past year as vice chair to include some training on what it takes to be the chair. And I had said, that's not the way our rules are written. When I served as vice chair for the second year of Charlie being the chair, I basically didn't do anything. And then when Charlie said he wouldn't run wouldn't be chair again and I got elected chair, I had to do a lot of on-the-job training. So I didn't disagree with her thought about if you become chair, instead of becoming chair and starting from zero, if you've got some training and you come up to speed, it makes that transition easier.
Instead of going in blind.
Instead of going in blind. So I personally support that. I think that makes sense. We are not, so there are some organizations, I can think of like the professional society I used to belong to. Every year, we would elect a vice president. And then the next year, the president would become the past president, the vice president would become the president, and we'd elect a new vice president. So that's not the way this committee works. Becoming vice chair doesn't mean next year you will be chair. So, but there's no reason that we can't make an effort. I'm willing to say yes, I think that makes sense. I think that we can talk about this. One of the things I would say is, at some point, maybe we'll take a meeting and say, I'll step back, give you some coaching, and you can do all the prep work and run the meeting and see what it's like to do
Well,
that.
see, that's the thing, when I first start out with like in any job, which I know I've done, and when I trained, whatever you job shadow, you learn what it is you're doing, what is, I'll call you at a meeting, I don't have to do anything, but just basically watch what you're doing and know the steps of, being the chair. That, I think everybody should kind of know that. I mean, it's like, I can sit here and know what you're doing and filling in and saying, okay, we've got this meeting and now let's call the order. I can do that type of stuff, but what you do outside, I don't have a clue.
So I think you
Schedule.
I think you just said something that's kind of interesting, is that if anyone else, even if you're not the vice chair,
Yeah.
if you want to learn more about what the chair does,
Mhm.
that certainly is something that should be available.
Right.
I'm gonna make the suggestion that rather than trying to come up with a formal rules change to say how we're doing this, since from my point of view, we have agreement and we have people that are saying, yes, I'll work to this, I don't think we need to make it formal, we just say we're gonna do it and then we work between ourselves to make it happen. If anyone else speaks up and says, I wanna get involved in this, we include you in that too.
I can't help myself, but that might be a slippery slope, because I know you do a fair amount of communicating with the town in between our meetings and whatever. And if a number of us ask to be trained or to follow along and stuff, you're gonna run afoul of the open public meetings restrictions. You're gonna have to be sending individual emails to people and making individual phone calls and stuff, and it may be, be careful what you wish for, because it may be.
I understand what you're saying, so I don't know that I don't think it's actually in our rules, but one of the things we've talked about for the past 2 years is that we don't want 7 members of the budget committee, each independently contacting department heads and asking for
Right.
things. So we said, if you want something from town administration, you ask the chair, and then the chair goes and gets that. So, and even with outside agencies, I remember doing that 2 years ago when Lakes Region VNA weren't really responding to us. I spent time tracking them down, trying to get them to show up. I hear what you're saying. I guess my expectation was, if everyone said they wanted to do it, which isn't gonna happen, but if we did, I wouldn't say, okay, all 7 of us, I'm not gonna copy all 6 of you. I would say, okay, on this meeting, we'll do it with Sue, and on that meeting, we'll do it with Buzz, so that there's only one other person, so that we're never gonna get to 4 people, which could clearly be not allowed under state law for the open meetings.
Just to clarify that though, as far as going to a department head that is not you.
Yeah.
That was never the way when I came on. It was totally because of John Sellers. He had Christina go through the office supplies and give him a list. And it took Christina a day and a half of work to do that. Now that's ridiculous. That's how that came in. I think it was Rob Glassick
Okay,
that got that, he was president. president at the time.
So you have,
And
you have
so,
history that I don't, so I don't know. I
right,
didn't-
that wasn't the way before, so I mean, if you don't think you have to follow something that's been in place for 20 years,
Well,
it's up to you, but it wasn't.
I guess the part of the thing is, I'm not planning to call up department heads monthly and say, I'm just confirming that you haven't.
Right.
Because some of, I mean, obviously, as a select board member, you talk to departments and all the time, some of the rep, Joe, I know you talk to one of our department heads all the time. Meaning, I'm not gonna be extended thing, but yeah. I mean, you have friends who are department heads, so I'm not suggesting that those are improper. But I also don't wanna see, you know, if we had some sort of concern about what was happening, say, in sewer. I wouldn't want,
Right,
I wouldn't want
Right.
4 or 5 of us calling up the sewer department saying, hey, give me these numbers. That's what I wanna try to avoid, Walter.
I would think for the good of the vice chair and for your assistant, if the two of you could get together and she could do some of the work
That's.
that you're doing.
I think that's what she suggested.
That's what I've always
exactly what
suggested,
I'm-
even last year I suggested that, and they kept saying, we can't do that, why can't you? I don't get that, it's in the bylaws, where is it in the bylaws that says you can't do it?
So can I?
Yeah.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah,
Two things, actually. So for one thing, this is just my take on it, that's taking 2 people from a committee that are now talking separately from the group. I know it's not an official meeting. But I would think that maybe a tutorial on what it takes to be the chair from you for all of the board members to say, these are the steps, even if you pre-meeting just said, this is what I had to do leading up to this meeting, so that we're seeing those steps from your standpoint, but not just Sue. It would be good for everybody to know what those steps are, because any one of us could end up, not me, but any one of you could end up being the chair in the future.
well, even if you're not in the future, but what would happen if sometime you were out and I was planning, you know, you're telling me ahead, I'm gonna, all of a sudden I got majorly sick or in an accident.
Right.
Someone else has to know, someone else has to step in, and it's still, as long as it's still enough to a quorum.
I hear what you're saying, I guess part of the thing is I'm assuming that between Les, who knows how town government works, and Joe, who has been in the past, we would have some people, and Christina would be in a position to provide some support. I will share with you, at one point, I had said to Christina, I said, I really appreciate the thoroughness with which Buzz is reviewing all our minutes, because he keeps finding typos and grammatical errors that I never see. And I had said to her, you know, the way the system works now is Shannon, as our minute taker, writes up a first draft of the minutes, and she sends them to the chair of the committee, and I proofread them and give her back suggestions. And then she updates them, and then they get sent to the whole committee with the invitation for everyone to look at and review and make changes. And I said, maybe I can add another step in there and get Buzz's comments before everyone else, because he always has good things. And Christina was like, I don't really think that that's legally allowed. You can't treat Buzz differently than the other committee members. You can't put, you get to look at him because you're chair. He gets to look at him when everyone else looks at him. So that's what I hear you saying. I gotta be careful not to give you special authority that no one else has, because, but I still think that there's a way to work together to give you some of the information you're looking for, because I think your request is reasonable.
I think there's,
Well,
Second part to that.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify, I think you as a group can make the decision though to give the vice chair authority to do steps. So it wouldn't really be going outside of what the group wanted. It's because the group would be making that decision. But I do like the idea too of what Les said, draw up directions on what you do to prepare for a meeting. So
Yeah, I do too.
I think kind of along that line, I was just gonna say, I felt like my experience in chair really fell into like 3 buckets of knowledge. There was one bucket of what's kind of the process or the prep work involved with planning a meeting. How do you interface with Christina's position or the department heads? And then the details and nuances of parliamentary procedure, right? And if you knew those 3 buckets, and And the first time I did it, it was,
On the
I'm
job.
learning on the job, right? But I really feel like those are the three kind of categories of work, at least in my experience of being chair, that you kind of go through. And so I think you could certainly, try to create some material or something to that effect to say, okay, these are the key aspects of parliamentary procedure as they apply to the budget committee, and these are
They're
the,
actually in bylaws.
what's that?
The bylaws, a lot of the bylaws read like Robert's rules
Yeah,
more than bylaws.
yeah,
Because it actually gets into how you run a meeting, it's almost a script.
Yep.
So, we all have that.
The one thing.
You had two things, so I wanted to come back to
The
you.
other thing was, I think it's a much cleaner process on, in any committee that I'm on. If you go through the chair, for a town committee, that you do not individually go out, because individually, you can go out with your own personal agenda and ask questions that the committee has not asked. So I should not individually, if I have an issue with the transfer station, I should not be able to go question them because I have issues with them. It should come through you as a committee to say, does everybody feel that this needs to be answered, or is it just my issue? And if it's just my issue, then you leave it alone, you go as a taxpayer. But I think everything should be funneled through the chair for those questions to either Christina or the department heads, not individually. And I think we saw the mistakes that can happen when you let individual members go out on their own and ask questions. I think it's we're one committee and all of our business should be done here, not individually.
but I think department heads appreciate the one point of
Yes,
access too.
they really do.
So so I want to recap what I heard and see if we're all on the same page. I heard a request that I put together, basically a document that summarizes the roles and responsibilities of the chair as I execute them, so that it's documented, so that anyone else could take it as a training aid. The other thing that I heard, which is different than what I was thinking, but I'm thinking is probably correct, that if we want to change I was thinking, let's just do this informally and Sue and I could work together. And what I think I heard was, no, if we want to change the way the committee functions, then we probably need to change the bylaws. So what I'd like to suggest at this point is that I will accept the task to document what the position is, and you're not gonna get it tomorrow or even the next week, but I'll try to get it before. I'm not gonna wait till the end of the summer. I'm not gonna wait till the end of the summer. And then after everyone's had a chance to look at it, at the next meeting, which is probably gonna be in September, we'll talk about, do we wanna update the bylaws in order to make the vice chair a more formal position, or are we okay with the way things have been going? Because if we want to give you formal responsibilities, we probably should formally document that. Does that work for people?
Yeah.
So I don't think I need to call a vote, I'm a big believer that the chair doesn't just get what they want. My job is to facilitate us as a group, and I just wanna try to get to a consensus. I think I'm seeing all heads moving in an up and down direction, so I think we're in good shape. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. My goal was not to get more tasks from this meeting, so I've already. All right, the next thing was, meeting minutes format. So we had some comment, we had some, discussion back in one of our January meetings, because there was some talk about the minutes not, and I thought, and I talked to Shannon and she agreed, let's talk about what the format of the minutes are, because if we want something different, we'll get whatever we want, but if you're not happy with what we're getting, or if you are, let's see if we can agree on what that can be. So I'm gonna invite you, even though you're not a committee member, to participate in this discussion. She handed out a little sheet of paper that was her idea. The thing so I wrote something down that's a little more, but I guess the thing that I had instructed Shannon for in the past is, to me, it's a lot of repetitive stuff. So particularly like this, you use a boilerplate, you say, a motion was made to move this budget line and this amount of money by member A, seconded by member B, and then you have a line that says a motion to amend was made, and what line is being amended, and how much money is different by member C and seconded by member D, and what are votes, and at least for me, I don't want our minutes to be a transcript of the conversation we have in these meetings. So the fact that we had a discussion is sufficient to me, not that Paul said this and Joe said this and Walter said this. Everything is, I mean, if you're not a member and you really want the detail, when we go into formal meetings, when we're discussing the budget, it's all recorded. You go back and watch the meeting if you want to see that whole discussion and see what was talked about. So I'm rambling a little bit.
It's okay, I'm letting you go.
I'm gonna say, let me stop for a second. Is there anything I didn't say that you
So
wanted to bring up?
pretty much how I kind of did this, so, obviously too, I've been here about 5 years. I've done several committees. One of my biggest ones right now is select board. So I figured one of the things that we could possibly bring into, if you guys wanted to, is kind of like a template that I do for select board. Again, too, I could do, actually, like one of my first select board minutes, I did 10 pages. If you want 10 pages, I can give you 10 pages, but it's gonna have so much detail, you're gonna get lost in everything. So a way to kind of clean it all up and make it more readable and legible for you guys, for the public. Something I kind of came up with from my select board minutes was kind of doing the bottom. So obviously I take my cues too from the chair. But obviously a lot of it is discussion. If you want me to bring in more detail from the discussion, I'm more than happy to. But you know, in the past couple of years, I've been doing just like discussion, you know, like the main topic, discussion stated, and then the motion. One way to kind of state who says yes and who says no. What the select board does too with roll call votes is I just do it in similar to roll call vote. Well, Mr. Waring says, you know, Mr. Waring, yes, Mrs. Dion, no, Mr. Reagan, yes, however you want it, but I just kind of wanted to do a draft and see what you guys thought, how you guys wanted it.
So typically, for most of our meetings, when we do a couple of departments, our minutes have been like 2 or 3 pages. The minutes we're reviewing tonight for last meeting, which was the public meeting, where we did all of the sections, is actually 8 pages. That's quite long, but there's a lot of repetitive because there's so many departments. The other thing that I wanted to say was, again, is that all of the minutes get discussed at a meeting. If you think that there's something in there that shouldn't be in there, or you think that there's something that should be in there that's not, you always have the opportunity to bring it up at the meeting. If for some reason you miss a meeting and you want to go back and say, I want to, you know, I missed this meeting and these minutes were approved, but I wanted to make some changes. Talk to me, I'll put it on the agenda. We'll go back and reopen those minutes. We can go back and make additional changes. But I guess one of the things that I'm looking for is, I was satisfied with, you know, we vote on a section and the vote is 5-1 or something. Typically, the minutes have just said it was a 5-1 vote. The only time we listed all the people is when we have someone participating remotely, in which case we have to do a roll call vote and that gets listed. What Shannon is saying, she's planning to list basically a roll call vote on all votes this year moving forward. If you disagree with that, speak up. That's it.
I just have a clarifying, so the select board only does the recording of who voted what on certain votes?
Yes,
So in mostly non-public or.
Correct.
So we don't do it on every motion that's made. But in the bylaws here, it says that you will list, it said, the vote of each committee member present shall be recorded on each motion. And I caught my attention when I was reading
Let's see.
earlier, like, well, that's weird because that's not how the select board does it, but I don't, so our bylaws basically say we should be saying each person's name. during the votes.
So Shannon has proposed that, and I have to admit, I did not catch that in our bylaws, so we will do that, and if we don't wanna do that, we'll amend the bylaws. Once you pointed out it's in the rules, I'm a rule follower, it's in the rules, we're gonna do it.
I was surprised to see it in the rules, because that's not, now I wanna go back and read.
I feel like I did it once upon a time when I first started, but then I don't exactly know what changed, but then something did.
The
and I
first 2
didn't-
years you did, that was the whole thing, you did, and that's what, and then all of a sudden it changed on my third year here. And I went, why is that? Why is the phrasing, why is it all different? I wasn't sure, and I thought it was because Paul was here, so I really wasn't sure.
No,
I.
each chair has been different too, because when I started, actually, he was my chair for 2 years running. And then it was Charlie, now it's Paul. So, I mean, each has had a different version of it, you know, but either way, I mean, it's still a decent, either way, it's been a good format, so. I'll do whatever you need me to do.
I think it makes sense, I think pre-COVID, we didn't do it because we never had anybody on Zoom, it just wasn't even an option.
Right.
But now that, I mean, this is not going away. So I feel like getting in the routine habit of doing the roll call vote, regardless of who's on the phone, is probably just makes it easy. And then I feel like if there's ever a point, I mean, we all know what the challenging conversations are gonna be, right? And so I think in those moments too, we can just say, hey, Shannon, would you mind, adding that additional comment I just made to the minutes, right? We could do it in the moment. We don't have to necessarily wait for the next meeting to be at it, so.
Janet?
So this is all very interesting, but we already talked about this last year. And Walter and I, at 2 different meetings, said we were not voting for the budget. And it was a no. That by the 3rd meeting, before the 3rd meeting, I went to Paul. And I said, that's highly unusual for the budget committee to have 2 members vote no. I think it should be noted in the minutes. The public should know it. If somebody sits at home and reads it, oh, I wonder who that was. We should have been doing it, and we sort of discussed it, and you said, the next meeting we have, which was gonna be this one, I'll bring it up and we'll put it in the minutes.
So when we talked about this back in January, you brought this up and said this, and what I remember from the conversation was I had said, you and Walter both stated that you thought that the budget number was too high and you were planning to vote against it. And my response was, yes, but at that point, we were not voting. You made a comment and you indicated how you would be voting in the future when we voted on a recommendation for the budget, but there wasn't a vote and it wasn't. So since we didn't hold a vote, I didn't think it needed to be in the minutes. And then you brought up later that you thought that it was a fairly important statement, and even if you were willing to agree that it was a comment, it was an important enough comment that it should have been in the minutes. So what I've been trying to say is, at the time, I looked at it differently than you did.
But you didn't indicate that to me.
But what I would like to do moving forward is, if I say, gee, this is more detailed, because I want to keep the minutes to be fairly terse, because that's what I prefer. When we then go to review the minutes, I want you to say, hey, this needs to be added here. The fact that I heard about it like 3 meetings later was what I was disappointed about, is that we're allowed to have different opinions, we're allowed to, we don't have to agree on everything. But I felt personally a little ambushed that something that happened like 3 meetings ago, you were indicating you weren't happy with it.
Why didn't you say it?
Why didn't you say it earlier?
Why didn't you say that? You did not indicate this to me at all.
Okay.
The opportunity though is when we review, when we review those minutes, if there's anything that we feel was missed by what we said or misinterpreted by what we said, that is the time to correct it, not bring it up again later. It can be corrected right then, very simply, and there's
I did
no more
mention that.
discussion.
Well, and beyond
I did
that.
mention.
Not ask for an amendment of the minutes.
Well, I think beyond that, I think you said the idea, but, if you're something of the order of, I'm gonna vote no for the budget. I'm gonna vote no for the budget, and I want that in the minutes,
Mhm.
make it contemporary, and we don't have to worry about changing
Good
the
idea.
minutes.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just agreeing.
I agree. So I can't go back and change. I wanna make sure that we have a system moving forward that's gonna work for each of us as individuals, as along with us as a group, as a whole committee. So that, what Joe suggested, I think makes sense. Does that work for you? That if you say something that you're sure you want in the minutes, mention it so that it's in the record and Shannon, and then if it still doesn't show up in the minutes, when we talk about it at the next meeting, make an amendment, a motion to amend, to add, or subtract, or whatever changes you think are appropriate.
Basically, Nick ran the meetings. And there's a reason why Nick turned on me. And the reason is, he wanted to meet with me and Joe Calisi, who was not on the budget committee at that time. So it was the three of us, so he could explain how he and Joe wanted me to vote. Because I was not voting the way he wanted. So I have been very quiet about going to the chairman. Because, until this year, because I feel a little freer.
I hope.
Did he ever talk to you about that?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So I guess what I want, I don't guess, what I wanna say is, Nick is gone.
Yeah.
That's in the past. I'm certainly not perfect, but I try to be open. Don't hesitate to come and talk to me if you think there's something that I could be doing better, or there's something that's happening that you don't wanna happen, or not happening that you do wanna happen. I really wanna. I don't know anything about what you said, so I can't say whether it's true or not, but I'm trying to focus on how we're going to move forward in the future and be as effective as possible. And so I can't really address what happened with Nick Coates a couple of years ago, but I wanna make sure that you're, happy's not the right word, but at least satisfied that the minutes don't have any significant or major flaws. Is that
Okay.
okay?
Yeah,
That's just such a simple thing too, because it's something I don't even think, I mean, I didn't, there was a couple times that I would have liked something in there, but I didn't think to say, and I'd like that into the minutes. It's so simple, and I just like, it's something that maybe we just need to be reminded, or that we can do, maybe with permission, I don't even know.
Cause you get caught up in the meeting.
You do, in the meeting, and then you don't think about that and saying, well, geez, I should have said something, or, you don't think of it until 2 hours later, maybe, or whatever.
Well, and you guys say a lot, and I write it all down. I mean, I don't put everything in, obviously, because that would be pages. But if you say, hey, make sure that's in the minute, I can highlight everything I said, make notes to
Yeah, and I
make
think-
sure it gets included.
I think that's the difference in the first 2 years, when I came here, started, you did almost put every word verbatim in there. So.
And it was longer.
Yeah, but it's really true, so you just kind of went, oh my God, Sue said this, Joe said this, everything was right, it was in there like that, so you were used to it, but now when you see so much missing, you kind of go, well, it makes sense that you would omit a lot of that so it's not, duplicated or whatever, but it's something that, now we've got to think in a different way.
Well, also too, as a minute taker too, I've learned to be more refined, because when
Right.
Joe had me as minute taker, I was 50 places all over the place.
Right.
With so many details I know. And now I can actually, construct a lot of different things into the proper way to say things without having he said, she said, which creates a lot of
Yeah.
hullabaloo.
Yeah.
So I've learned over the past 5 years too, how to be more refined, how to have those formats, how to, do things. And if you need me to note something, I will be happy to do so.
I I think it's a good, learning.
Walter had something he wants to say.
I'm really happy with the way the minutes have worked out. I'm very happy with the way you've run it. If I ever had anything to say, I said it. And I meant it when I said it. And nobody could ever have been more fair to me than this budget committee has. And I just appreciate the job you're doing. I'm damn thankful I don't have to do it.
I think that's a really good point, though, to just emphasize that it's all about just ensuring that we all have an equal opportunity to speak, to have our voices heard, to have our, to make a motion, to second and so forth, regardless of whether or not we agree with the outcome, right? And so I think this.
I'm
this is a good
100%
alignment.
there, is that we don't all always agree, and we don't have to always agree. But I'm really pleased to work with you folks, because we always treat each other with respect
Yeah.
and no, there's no rudeness, I think people want this committee to work, so that makes my job, thank you, possible. Okay. Don't think we need a vote, I'm gonna move on unless somebody else wants to say something on minutes. So the last thing here was, and I kind of, so there was a question about where are we required to have meetings and how do things work? So it was a conversation I had with Janet. She pointed out actually to me that this is a working session, we're not actually doing any budget work. And I said, gee, I hadn't thought about that. So we didn't have to meet in, conference room A is our preferred place to be because it's got all of the AV capabilities that we can stream the meetings. And when we're reviewing department budgets, we want to be streamed, we want to be a public meeting. My understanding is the select board and the budget committee are the two committees that are always getting streamed when they're in a formal meeting and talking about official town business. But this wasn't.
In the town meeting.
And the town meeting, but
I
this
watched
was
the town meeting.
but this is a working meeting.
Yeah.
So one of the things I said to
Yeah.
Christina was, I said, well, not only am I cheap when it comes to talking about the budget, I'm cheap when it comes to spending money. Let's not pay Kate to come in here and stream this working session. We'll just record it with the Zoom thing in case we need to go back and review what we're talking about, and we'll not spend all that money. So the other thing, and I'm not sure exactly, so I'm gonna kind of throw it back to you, but you also said to me, are we having I think what you said to me is, are we having the public meeting do we have to have it in here? Are we having it in the right
Right.
place?
Right.
So do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because I'm not sure what you would rather do.
Well, it's dollars and cents.
Okay.
If I say it, it's dollars and cents, I
Okay.
guarantee. Why do we have to have the public meeting at the old town hall? I can't find where anybody has objected to that. But it costs the town a day and a half to get that building up to heat. Now, who's paying that? The town's paying it.
I hear what you're saying, and I do understand that trying to use that building in the winter is hideously expensive. But we had a meeting here. When you.
What meeting? There was a meeting that I didn't attend because it was over there.
No.
No.
No,
Hold on a second. So the public meeting on February 6th was held in this room and
Right.
you Zoom in from Florida. So last year, with the public safety building being built, the police department has moved in. So the other conference rooms in this building have been basically turned into other things for the police department, other people to use. So for last year's budget cycle, conference rooms were harder to get because there were less places to meet. So in the original meeting schedule, the meeting for late September, I had proposed to move to the historic town hall because it was a night when I don't know if it was the planning board or the historic district committee, they also meet on Tuesday nights, so this room isn't always available, and I didn't want to changed from Tuesday night, so I said, let's move it up there. And it was September, so we wouldn't have to spend a ton of money on heat, and we're not discussing department budgets, so if we somehow, Kate couldn't stream us, we could probably live with that. It turned out that the historic, I think it must have been the historic district, so they ended up not having a meeting, so we ended up actually having a meeting here. But I did have proposed one of our meetings, it was gonna be the meeting where we're gonna meet with the outside agencies, so when the visiting nurses and the transportation central
But
and those folks.
wasn't the library complaining that they were afraid the floors were gonna get dirty? Because there'd be a crowd, and when I first got on the budget committee, there were a lot more volunteers in town. And all of those all that meeting where the public comes in was always held at the library. I mean, people would be standing.
So I understand what you're
And
saying.
now we're down to what, 4 or 5 people coming to that meeting?
Before I was on the committee, when I was just a taxpayer, I remember going to the budget committee's public meeting in the library. And I know that it's been here the past couple of years. Walter, I'm gonna stop and let you talk.
The meeting Janet's in reference to was the candidates debate. And I wholly agree with her. Meeting in the Old Town Hall is barely acceptable for me.
Mm-hmm.
For many older people in this town, it's a downer. It's the reason, part of the reason why the candidates debate was poorly attended compared to the ones that are held at the library.
So
I have real mixed feelings about the Old Town Hall, because I went there as a kid quite often, sat right over the grate in the winter time. I appreciate that place. But it's not advantageous for a lot of older people, and if you're carrying people like I do quite often to vote and other things, backing out after you vote is murder, it's dangerous. And one of us is gonna run over somebody with no like and respect, trying to get out of there.
Just
If
as
there
the
was
golf
anything
cart.
I could do, we wouldn't be in that Old Town Hall for anything.
So,
But when I talk about the heat, I also talk about it takes 1 or 2 highway people to check on it, like every 2 hours or every 3 hours. So if it's snowing out and they're checking in there, it's not convenient, first of all, and you're paying time and a half. And they gotta come off their roof,
Well,
and so the thing is, they're coming off their roof more than the money.
so. I'm gonna stop again. Joe,
So I don't have to say
something.
anything else.
I was just gonna say, I think what we can all agree to is, or this is my assumption, but I think we could all agree to that. We will try to avoid using the Old Town Hall for business or for budget committee purposes throughout the next year. We don't have control over the candidates forum, we don't have control over the election, right? That's not the scope of this committee, but for the purpose of this committee, we'll do our best to avoid using.
So the draft schedule that I put out.
I saw
has
that,
all the
yeah.
meetings here in room A, we're not.
I saw that.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay, very good.
If it costs money,
I was gonna say.
I'll all over it.
All right, what else do I have here? So that's kind of what I had for how are we gonna work as a committee going forward. Does anyone else have anything else they wanna bring up before we? Okay,
How are we gonna, I'm sorry,
Go
for
ahead.
anything of anything, you mean?
no, about how we're gonna work. So we've talked about roles of the officers, we've talked about
Right,
the structure of the minutes. Now we just talked about location of meetings, but I'm talking about kind of ways of working, how we're gonna run the committee
right,
is what we're on right now.
yes.
No, okay.
I have something else in mind.
No, that's fine. So. I'll go in the order here. So I also wanted to see, at this point, it's so early, I don't have anything, but if someone wants to make. At some point normally, we're asked, do we have any instructions we wanna give to the department heads? Because of the way the schedule works now, we're not gonna meet again until after the department heads put together their
Thank you.
draft budget to submit to the select board. So if we wanna give some instructions or we wanna give some requests, I thought that even though it's hideously early, now is the time we would need to do it. I mean, I don't have enough information that I'm comfortable doing it, so I don't have anything, but I wanted to bring it up in case anyone else had wanted to say something or wanted to make a motion or make a suggestion.
Well, I wanted to mention that I was going back to the minutes. Because there's 2 errors on.
No, we're gonna go to that later in the
Later,
agenda.
okay.
Okay, so the next thing to talk about is the schedule. So let me, it's been pointed out to me, and I think that it makes sense to me, is that it's easier for people to attend these meetings if we're on a fairly regular schedule. Because I'll share with you, at one point last year when the meeting rooms were hard to come by, I said to Christina, I don't care, we could have a meeting on Wednesday this time and Tuesday the next time, and she said, well, that might work for you, Paul, but it's not gonna work for everybody. So I'm like, all right, no, so we need to pick a day of the week, and then the other thing I wanna point out, again, this is kind of from learning on the job, you might already have known this, but last year, because the meetings were hard to get, we were in a little less of a rhythm. I didn't realize when we have meetings on consecutive Tuesdays, it puts a lot of additional pressure on myself as the chair and Shannon as the minute taker to turn that around a lot faster. So I really worked this time to try to get in a rhythm where we're gonna meet on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month. For the most part, I was trying to do that. And the anchor to the, I guess I would say to the schedule is that historically, what I've seen is that the select board finishes their deliberative work and approves the budget at their second meeting in October. And then they would show up the following week on Thursday to give that to us, and then we can start on our departmental meetings. So I didn't want to start earlier than that because I would have to go to the select board and ask them to move their timeline up. They already struggle to meet the timeline they have now. They'd be more likely to ask us to go later, and we can't go later, but I don't think it's fair to ask them to go sooner. Kind of got that.
I would agree.
Okay. So that's what it is, so theoretically, if there's a fifth Tuesday in the month, that would be available. The problem happened, for the number of meetings we have, the fourth Tuesday in December is Christmas, and the fifth Tuesday in December is New Year's Eve. I'm not willing to meet on either of those days, and I'm sure none of you are, but we needed another meeting somewhere in there, so we either needed to go the first week in January or the third Tuesday in December. I chose the third Tuesday in December. And then the other thing, Christina, I didn't have got any feedback from you, but we talked last year that we could have had the public meeting on either the 6th or the 13th.
I don't think the schedule's out yet. I can do a quick look while you're
I put
talking.
the public meeting on the 11th, which would have been the equivalent of the 13th this year, so I gotta confirm, or Christina needs to confirm that this all works from the town's point of view. But I think at this point, what I'm looking for is, does anyone have any, do you want a different date? Does the idea of the second and the fourth Tuesday of every month, for the most part, make sense? Does somebody need something different? Do you know that you always have a staff meeting at work that you can't get out on the fourth Tuesday of every month or something?
I'm on another board and I don't know what this calendar is gonna be yet,
Yeah.
but I'll let you know as soon as I do.
Another town board or
No,
something else?
it's a
Gotcha.
board for a nonprofit.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not hearing any requests for changes at this time, so we can, again, discuss it later, but at this point, assuming, I'll work with Christina to confirm that this complies with all of the state requirements and deadlines and laws and whatever, assuming that it does, we'll reserve the conference room for all of those dates, and we'll, if we want to change after that, it might be possible, it might not, we'll have to talk about it and balance. The reason to talk now is that we have more freedom to make changes. If we wanna make changes later, it's not that it can't be done, but it might be, gee, we've already booked that for some other town business that night, and you don't really have that option anymore.
There'll be
Well,
other
let me
options.
ask this
Sorry.
question.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
No, that's fine.
You'll have to do that to say that. Will we be able to get the reports better than we did last year?
Which, I'm sorry, what are you
The
talking about?
financial reports. Some of our holdup last year and pushing things out was difficulty.
So I don't know that any resolution has happened. I know that, I know the town, my understanding is that the select board has approved the position description and authorized for someone to be hired. My
That's good.
understanding is that that the administration is doing, soliciting, had been soliciting resumes and has done some interviews. I don't believe that they have made a decision, or if they have, it's not a public announcement yet. It is my expectation that the town will have a finance director by the time we get going in September.
That's fine.
And I think if that's not the case, your concern is valid, but I'm hopeful and I'm pretty confident we will have a finance director in the not too distant future.
If we don't, we won't have a town administrator.
Said that out loud. I will also let you know that we've tested the reports and the reports are going to come out a little different than you're used to, but they are easy to run in the new system. So we should be able to get those to you with the finance officer.
Okay, and just to remind you, I did make the request last year that you agreed to the town switched over to a whole, I mean, I'm not sure I have all the details, but the town switched over to a whole new accounting system. And in past years, all of our reports were in dollars, and last year it was in dollars and cents.
Mhm.
We're not gonna worry about cents in a
No.
$9 million budget. I asked that we go back to just dollars, do
Absolutely.
not show us cents.
That's a common situation you may
Okay.
use, Charlie.
All right, so I think that's it for new business. And now we'll move on in the agenda to reviewing the minutes of the previous meeting, which was February 6th. So I will start by making a motion to approve the minutes of the February 6th meeting. I know there are gonna be some changes, but we need a motion and seconded to start discussion. Can I get a second? Seconded by Buzz.
Oh, seconded by Buzz.
So seconded by Buzz. So before we start, I will point out the two, I know Buzz, you always have some, but let me point out two things. Shannon,
Yes.
on the first page under present.
Okay.
It's after Janet's name, it says tardy. I think it should say remote. Right? She called in on Zoom. I know there were some issues with getting the Zoom started up again, but I think I don't think tardy is proper, but I think pointing out that she was remote is appropriate.
I wasn't tardy.
Okay, and then the other thing is on page, this is probably I'm stealing Buzz's thunder, on page 7. Under the warrant articles. It's got, the paragraph is repeated, all other warrant articles, and then it says all other warrant articles, so take the second one out,
Better?
those are my two changes.
And the updated, Shannon, down in the right-hand corner, updated May 13th, 2019.
Where?
On the right-hand side of the,
The first page. on the
First
right-hand
page.
side, Bottom right. It's not in the regular text, it's like the footer.
okay,
I'm not seeing it, but we did say that we wanted to keep track somewhere in here about what rev it is, so when we finish amending and approving, then you'll update it to say approved on
That is correct.
April 29th.
Yeah.
Those are the bylaws.
So Joe, one of the things we talked about last year, because you weren't on the committee, I'll point this to you. We talked about that we wanted to have better revision control or version tracking. So what we've asked Shannon to do, and I don't see it on here, oh, it says, so in the upper right, it says approved, draft minutes. So after tonight, it'll change to approved,
That's the upper left.
upper left, I'm dyslexic.
That's okay.
That'll change to approve on that meeting on April 29th. If for some reason in the future we've said we wanted to reopen these and change them again, we would update that so we know what version we're keeping track of, because we said that we thought we weren't doing a good enough job of keeping track of revisions.
At the same time, I also mentioned something that was on the town report too.
Okay,
Should be adjusted.
all right. You always have something.
He told me as soon as he walked through the door, he was like, I have something for you.
On the first page is, number 4140,
Yep,
the second sentence begins increases for, there's no verb.
Yeah, increases were made for, is what it should
Or
say.
something,
Yeah.
yeah.
let's see.
You mean you want a verb in every sentence?
So does your second grade teacher. On the, I don't have page numbers, but on the third page, under 4210,
Yep,
second line, there should be a dollar sign, not a pound sign.
yep.
Yeah.
And I think, oh yeah, on the next page, under 4522,
Yep,
in the first line, after the word and, I think you should put the word funds in.
okay, so this budget includes a seasonal labor position, equipment, supplies, and funds for the master plan project.
Yep,
That works for me.
Okay,
and then I think the last is on the next page, under 4711 and 4721.
okay,
It should be principal on town bonds, not the town, but town bonds with a capital T.
So it should say this budget is to pay for the principal on
Town
town,
bond,
capital T instead of the.
Yeah.
And then actually on the next one, you got a number 3 after the word budget, you get rid of that, right?
yeah, and I would actually say bonded indebtedness, but something, I mean, that town bonds is fine.
Now you're
Just say town bonds.
now you're showing off your lawyers.
Can you go back to that though, because I have a couple of different ones, so I just wanna make sure I'm getting the right one, can you say that one more time?
Section number 4711, principal long-term.
Okay.
This budget is to pay for the principal on town bonds with a capital T.
Got it.
And then 47,
And then repeat that for the next one,
right,
Yeah,
and take out the 3 after the word budget.
okay, yep, I saw that now.
that's it.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any corrections or updates they would like to see made in these minutes? Not hearing any, I will call the vote. So we're not gonna vote to approve the minutes as amended. All in favor? You want me to do a roll call? Is that a procedure? You got it. This is, hold on. No one saying, I didn't see your hand.
Oh, what's up?
Okay, I
But,
was too slow. You didn't call the vote.
I abstained
okay,
Oh, thank you.
because I was not here.
Okay, so we have 5 yeses and Sue abstained.
yeah,
Okay. Correspondence. I don't know if anyone else has any correspondence. I will share with you correspondence that happened since the last meeting because I wanna make sure that when someone takes over from me, they don't make the same mistake I made. So the minute, so this is somewhat ironic, I thought it was interesting, if you read the minutes we just approved, it says something to the effect of Mr. Regan invite, welcomed everyone to the public hearing on the proposed 2024 budget, warrant articles and revenue. For some reason, Mr. Regan thought it was a public hearing on the budget. So we had a meeting and we went over all the budget sections, and when we finished, I closed the public meeting, we took a recess, we went back in, we invited the public to stay, they didn't have to leave, but then we went back in and we approved the revenues and we reviewed the warrant article and we voted on our recommendations. So after the meeting, somebody watched, I don't know if they were watching it while we were doing it, live stream, or watched it later on as a recorded thing, and they contacted Christina and said, the hearing was supposed to be on the budget, the revenues, and the warrant article, you only held a meeting on the budget. And Christina and I looked at each other and I said, holy moly, we're gonna have to have the Wednesday session, we're gonna have to have another meeting tonight? No, hopefully not. So she contacted the lawyer, and the lawyer said, yeah, maybe not the best practices, but you had handouts available for the revenues, you had handouts available for the warrant article, the information was publicly available, you met the requirements under the letter of the law, you don't have to have another meeting. But if somebody else is running the meeting, don't make the same mistake I did. The public meeting is not just for the budget, it's for the budget and the revenues and the warrant articles. Okay? I told you I'm not perfect.
Just to add, you do not vote in the public meeting though. So you'd still, you would announce everything and you'd talk about it, but your actual votes are after you close the public
I
meeting.
understand, but just like we went through all the different departments to talk about their budget, what I should have done was said, and the revenue estimate is X. Do you have any questions? Now, the warrant articles, you know, the budget is 9 million and this 25 for, we don't vote on anything, but we just bring them up and we talk to them and we make sure they're aware of what's going on and give them a chance to ask us any questions. So I'm not disagreeing with Christina, thank you. All right,
Well, at least you got mail. Jeez.
Well, my joke was before we knew for sure, because we hadn't had the election yet, we knew we had 3 positions and only 2 candidates, and I said, if someone is looking at our work that much, find out who it is, maybe we got a potential committee member.
We also joked that we knew people were actually watching the budget committee public hearing then.
So I wanted to share that with you guys, because I thought,
If that's the worst thing you do, Paul.
all right, I think that's it for me for correspondence. Did anyone else have any correspondence? I would be surprised, but you let me know. So now we'll go through just real quick, comments. Select board, anything going on with the select board we need to know about?
No, nothing pressing budget wise right now, and it's just nice to see everybody again, nice to welcome Joe back.
Thank you.
Do you meet through the summer, the
Oh,
select
yeah.
board? Every, still once a month or every?
Twice a month.
Twice.
The first and third Thursday of every month.
Right.
Except around July 4th.
Yeah, they used to go to Monday meetings in the summer and with the concert series.
Yeah.
But we haven't been doing that in the last few years, so.
Okay. Walter, any comments, anything you want to share
All I
with
can
us?
say is I'm proud to be part of a committee that gets along this well.
Janet, anything else you want to?
I am too, this committee I've seen go from 13 down to 7,
Yeah.
fighting and no respect, and that's the whole thing. You know, respect what I've done, respect what he's done, and I totally respect what you do. So it wasn't that way then, and it's really settled itself down.
All right. Anything you want to say, Joe? No, okay. Buzz, do you have anything? So,
Oh, I just have one thing, so I just wanna make sure it's on the agenda. Last year, we've talked, like the select board does, about doing this pledge of allegiance, but it wasn't always on the agenda. I'd like to see if it's on the agenda every week for the first thing that we do.
Yeah, I forgot to put it on this agenda.
I know, I
You
just figured.
you had asked for it and I don't think I think I missed at least one, but I tried, I thought to add it to the agenda. And
Yeah.
even if it wasn't on the agenda, I think we did it.
Well, we did do it, no matter what, but I just wanted it on the agenda so we don't ever forget, because I'm thinking today, we sat here, didn't
Oh,
even,
never thought of it.
never thought of it.
Okay,
Yeah, no, we didn't have to do it, it was a work session, but we probably should,
okay.
you know.
So the two comments I'm gonna make actually have to do more with the select board, but I just wanted to make sure that you're aware that the select board is in the process of holding public hearings on the parsonage lot. So if you have any interest, you might wanna show up this Thursday, because I think they're gonna finalize the contract and the sale and whatever's going
Oh,
on.
no, I wasn't aware of that.
It's like it's on the.
They had two meetings, they had a meeting on the third, the second meeting in April and the first meeting in May. So if you're interested in the parsonage lot, you might wanna go to the next select board meeting. There's one-
So how did I miss that?
That's in May.
Is it someplace that I?
I saw it on the bulletin
It's on
board
the
out
town,
here.
it's on the town.
Yes, it's on the town site.
It's on the town
Oh,
website and it's also posted on the bulletin board out here in famous,
And it's been on the buzz.
What time on Thursday? I'm sorry.
Is it 7, Christina?
I haven't finished setting the agenda. I think it's going to be 6, but I'll send you a message, Janet, so you know. But
Okay.
I do believe it's gonna be 6, so.
Okay.
So my second comment, and maybe I should have brought this up during the schedule, but so Joe, I'm kind of gonna pick on you a little bit, just so you know, because you weren't here last year. So one of the things that we changed last year is that the first couple of years I was on the committee, we have the organizational meeting. And then we have a meeting where we brought in all the department heads and rotated them through the seat of honor and asked them about things. And I believe, and the committee as a whole agreed, and we said, that's chewing up a fair amount of their time, and it doesn't really generate a lot of value to us, we're not making any decisions. So what we said last year, and I wanna make sure you're aware of it again this year, is that we're not gonna bring in department heads, but the department heads, over the course of 3 or 4 meetings, all go to a select board meeting where they get grilled by the select board. So I went to those 4 select board meetings last year where they were talking about budget things. I want to encourage all the budget committee members in September and early October to go to the select board meetings when they're gonna be talking about the budget. It's not our meeting, you just sit there and listen, but it's an opportunity to hear what the select board is doing. One of the things we did last year, and I don't know if we asked for it or if Sean took the initiative, but we got a document, yeah, you guys actually wrote it down and gave us a document saying, here are the town priorities as set by the select board for the upcoming year for the budget you're working for. We'll ask for that again. I thought that was really helpful last year to know what, because the select board sets the leadership, sets the tone, so that helped us a lot. And then the last thing, this is just sharing information, so I'm really curious personally about what's gonna happen with the current firehouse. And I think that it's our business because it potentially has a budget impact. If we sell the building, we'll get some money. If we don't sell the building, we'll get use out of it, but we won't get the money. So I know there's some desire, and Walter's one of the leaders, is to not sell it, to turn it into a senior center. So I ran into Rob Glassett and I said to Rob, hey, just what's your expectations? And he said, as select board chair, I don't know if you've heard this, but what he told me was, he said, as select board chair, I don't have any urgency about this. I'm basically planning to get the new public safety building built and get the fire department moved from the current building to the new building. Not even worry about it until all that has happened. So we might hear something late summer, but we're not gonna hear anything over the next month or two. So I just wanted to share that with you, because I was interested and I thought you guys might be.
Oh my God, I think half the town is.
I was gonna say, half the town, I've had some few people mention it, they are interested in that, to know, I mean. I know that's a
Everybody
great
knows
idea.
it's in bad shape.
Yeah, but that's the thing,
I mean, they know about it, when you
Yeah.
walked into the meeting, the town meeting this year, the couple of people from the fire department, were they handing out questionnaires, so that.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because you weren't there, so there was,
No.
it was a, it was
Just like a-
there were two
Yes,
boxes, I
yeah.
want the building sold, I want the building kept, and then an open-ended question, what do you want us to know, or something.
So has that been tallied?
I haven't seen it, I haven't seen it.
Seen anything.
It has been tallied, I'm trying to think where I saw it, might have been the select board, I was thinking it was like 85 to 50 or something like that. Christina, do you know off the top of your head?
No, not off the top of my head. I thought we only had 85 votes though, total,
then
and
it
I
might
think
have
the
been-
majority wanted it sold.
55 to 30.
Yeah,
The
something
majority
like
did
that.
want it sold.
Yeah.
I'm
They
sorry,
wanted
the
it.
majority didn't want it sold?
The majority
They
wanted
did.
it
Oh, did want it
They
sold.
wanted it back on the tax roll.
So it's not something we have any authority over,
No.
it's not something that we have any control over, but it's something that we're all interested in, so I just wanted to take the opportunity to. As chair, I get to harass Rob a little bit, so I took the opportunity.
And I was really glad that let's get everything out of there first, that, you know, there's no urgency to make that decision, but I think once it's vacant, we need to fairly quickly make a decision on what's gonna be done. Cause otherwise we're just keeping an empty building.
Did everybody, I think it was on Facebook, I think, there's a man, I don't even know who he is, who's having a meeting, May 14th, a proposal for an ice skating rink. Now, this came up, maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, I do remember that.
Cause I went to that meeting, oh my God. Our darling police chief, oh boy, look out, she's here, she's gonna cut it, so. But it didn't go anyplace because we don't have the money and no volunteers.
I hear,
It's a lot of
So
volunteers.
I don't do Facebook, I don't have a Facebook,
Yeah.
page, so I don't know anything about it, so I appreciate you bringing it up. I'm gonna say that it's not our responsibility, it's not our.
No, I'm going to it, I just wanted to say,
So I
it
don't wanna get into a big discussion, but I
No.
thank you for bringing it up. If anyone is interested, they should go to the meeting, and if anyone wants to go to the meeting and doesn't know,
I
Don't
believe
me.
we're also,
I know what else I
I
have.
must have missed something.
Go ahead.
Go to the meeting, when is the meeting on
She said
that?
she said it was May 14th, to talk about an ice skating rink.
Okay, I'm
Wow.
way out in left field, I apologize for butting in.
The community events committee, just to give you.
That's who it was, that's
The
right.
community events committee is not going to be in charge of an ice rink, but they're facilitating the interest so that people can come together. There's one gentleman, which is what it's gonna take, is somebody that is passionate about ice skating to gather another group of people that are passionate to make it happen. And it looks like he's got a group, and they're gonna hold a meeting to see, do we move forward, do we look at starting with something or not? But there's nobody's funding it yet, it's just informational at this point. And this is a great time to do it before we get to fall and say, oh, wow, we should have, so we'll see. But
But this would be a private thing.
it's
You're
not
not gonna
something the
seek
town
money
would
from
be
the town, yeah,
funding.
yeah.
It's certainly not at this point,
No.
but it might require some help from town departments, should something like that happen, which it has in the past.
Right.
So it's just informational right now.
In the other meeting, there were people there that knew how to build the ice rinks, and there was a lot of knowledge there, but no one wanted to come in.
I thought there was a nice rink at one point, way back like.
There
It was
used to be one on the basketball courts, but
Yeah.
it was
There was one
many,
of
many
the,
moons ago.
I was gonna
Like
say-
25, 30 years ago, yeah.
back in the 80s.
Then there was one, we were purchased or were given, boards. And it was when Betsy Schneider, I think, was on the select board, and there was a go-getting group that was willing to put the boards up. Unfortunately, it wasn't level enough, and so it tended to go, it was hard to keep good ice on it. It was a tremendous amount of work. And they were hockey boards, so they were very difficult. And that group did it for 1 year and said, we're done. So it's been dead for a while.
Yeah.
So something simpler would be better.
So before I move on, the one other thing I wanted to say was, I got a sheet, and I put my information on it. I'm gonna pass this around and ask you to put your contact information. I really wanted to call Joe this afternoon, and I didn't have a phone number for it. So I'm asking you to put your contact information on here. So I wrote my name and my address and my phone number and my email address. And then I also put a column for, is it okay to share? If you say okay to share, I don't wanna read this into a public meeting, I don't wanna make this public information. But if you put yes on here, what I'm gonna do is for the people that said yes, I'm gonna put it into an email and share it with all of the other committee members, so you know how to get in touch with other committee members. If you say no, I still hope you will give me the information in case I need to contact you, but I won't send it to the other members. And if you really don't wanna do it at all, just write your name down and leave the rest of it blank. But I'd like to pass this around and ask you.
Think Buzz is gonna see what I'm thinking.
Go ahead, Buzz.
It raises an issue that we addressed at the beginning of last year. And since we have a new member, at your urging, and it's a great idea as a lawyer, I created a separate email account for the budget.
Yep.
And
That's what I'm gonna put down, not my.
That's fine, and I mentioned it to Joe, and he said he was aware, and he said for now, he's gonna use the email he gave me, he said he might create a new one, and when you do, send it to me and we'll update the lists and send it to that.
Did you get the invite and information that I sent through email, or did I
Yeah.
have it wrong?
No,
You
I
did,
got it, yeah.
okay.
Okay. So we went around the room and did, member comments, the next thing is staff comments. Christine, you have anything you wanna say?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Shannon, your staff, any comments you wanna say?
Nope.
Okay. So the last thing is adjournment. So we're 5 minutes after the Sue's target of 7:15, but we're close. So if you look at the schedule, so it'll come out, you'll get an invitation, you'll get an updated schedule, but right now, the next meeting is not till Tuesday, October 8th,
Oh,
and that will be to review with the outside agencies. So we'll have all of those folks in and we'll go through all of that.
okay, yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, can I get a second?
Sure.
Seconded, so all in favor? We are adjourned, thank you for coming, enjoy your summer. If something comes up,
Leslie, did Deb leave? Who? Deb Tivy?
No,
She didn't, cause Shannon's doing the, minutes, and I didn't know if,
yeah, Shannon's gonna be doing our minutes.
yeah, Deb's still here.
That's so,
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. I just
Yeah,
wanted to
she and
make
I
sure.
work hand in hand with the
Yeah.
minutes too, because she does non-public and I do public.
Yeah.
We also moved her into,
just leave it, just leave it.
What's up, Christina?
I was just, that's all right, good.
Okay.
I'll stop you have to stop the recording.
Yes. You told me it wasn't a new one, you said it was an old one, you would abandon it.
Yeah, I just redid it so I didn't have the connection. Yeah, cause I have like another email. I just wanna use that one either, so
Do I need to do anything else, Christina?
You'll have to stop the recording.
I did that.
Oh, no, it's still recording. Might be because I'm on here. I'll leave. Bye, Shannon.
I'm getting the going, I got our guy.
Thank you, Janet.